Hola, estudiantes. Welcome to the podcast. This is Spanish with Levi, formerly known as Mexican Fluency. I wanted to start off this episode of the podcast saying that today we're looking at the fluency wheel. So we're going to begin taking one day per week to look at tactics on the best ways to learn Spanish, how to become a better Spanish learner. And another day of the week, we're going to be diving into Spanish immersion, similar to what we were doing before with conversations, but I'm also going to be breaking down telenovela scenes. We're going to be diving into some more listening type of stuff with Mexican Spanish as our main focus, okay? So the podcast is a little bit different now, but I think it's going to be actually quite a bit better. We'll have one day in English just like this. I'm breaking things down, talking about how to learn Spanish better, talking about Spanish grammar topics. And like I said, the other day will be more focused on immersion and better understanding Español Mexicano. Okay, so like I said, today we're diving into the fluency wheel, which is a concept that I came up with. I'm writing about it in the book that I've been writing on. The book is called How Do I Learn Spanish? And I'm still tweaking some of the things with the title and some other things, but that is going to be coming out soon this year. So I think you guys are going to like it. I'll be sure to announce whenever it actually is available. So the fluency wheel is a really interesting topic. It doesn't matter if you're a complete beginner, an intermediate, a little bit more advanced. The fluency wheel is basically just a way to think about learning a language or learning Spanish in general in a very, very simple way, like how to go about doing it. So at the top of the fluency wheel is going to be motivation. And this is like the driver for everything, the driver for everything in your entire language learning, Spanish learning journey. And the reason I think motivation is so important is just because it is what's going on in your mind, right? And as an adult learner, you have to be motivated. You have to have something driving you forward. You have to have some sort of gasoline in the tank, right? Motivation is definitely the gasoline in the tank, in my opinion. And without it, you're not going to go anywhere. If anything, you'll start to roll backwards, kind of like you're going up a hill with a car, run out of gas, you're screwed, you're going to start rolling back down the hill. That's how I think about motivation. So motivation can be anything from a romantic partner to wanting to travel in Latin America or Spain, wanting to improve whatever it has to do with your job, your career outlook, it can be not even that deep. It could be something that you're just interested in learning about Spanish language and culture because you like the music and you like to go to Mexico, for example. It can be very simple, but just keep in mind the importance of motivation. This is like the number one thing that you have to have. And if you lose your motivation, you need to always come back to that if you want to make real progress and move towards fluency or even proficiency, like more like a higher level of Spanish. So the next thing is going to be what you need to be doing is listening. And this is so overlooked, so overlooked. Listening is super important when it comes to learning Spanish or any other language. And the reason for this, what I've realized, is that because you have to have, it's very difficult to mimic something if you've never heard it before. Like if you're trying to learn a song, you wouldn't just read about the song or, maybe just read the lyrics and never actually listen to the song. You would never know how it's sung, right? Same goes for the language. When we're learning a language, essentially what we're doing is mimicking. We're trying to become really good at mimicking the actual language. So we need to do a lot of listening to understand what it is that we're even trying to mimic, right? We're trying to mimic the pros, and the pros are the native speakers, right? So we need to listen. Podcasts, telenovelas, series. I'm a big fan of telenovelas and series, especially like on streaming services, because you can go in and turn on Spanish subtitles with that. It just makes the listening experience so much richer, sticks in your mind so much better. But do that as often as you can. And my recommendation with this is always to do listening that is interesting to you. So if you like the podcast, whenever we do Spanish episodes, that's perfect. If you like another one, do that. If you like the news, do that. If you're into movies and cinema, music, whatever, do that. The next thing is going to be we'll put vocabulary. So vocabulary what I mean by vocabulary is literally just words and expressions. So what you need to be doing on top of the listening and just being motivated is you need to be building a vocabulary. And you can be doing that with flashcards. You can be doing that with your listening. When you're listening, jotting down new words and expressions. You can be practicing Duolingo, the Duolingo app, the Pimsleur app, something like that. You can be doing my Spanish Supercharger digital flashcards. I have that at SpanishLevi.com. You guys can check that out. It's just a way to build more words. You need to learn like 2,000 plus words to be able to communicate at a fluent level. So adding new vocabulary, words and expressions, learning new verbs, all of that is very, very important. And of course, we're leaving out a lot of different things like grammar, conjugations, and all sorts of different grammar stuff. But at its core, if you're motivated, you're listening every day, you're adding new words to your vocabulary, you're going to be in a really, really good position. And the next thing that we need to do on the fluency wheel is to very simply be speaking, and I'll make it vulgar, fucking up. Okay? We need speak, because speaking alone is not enough. You need to mess up. We'll put F up here. And I just say F up to stick in our heads. We need to screw up. We need to fuck up a lot, and we need to get comfortable with it. And the reason for this is because if you're just speaking and you're not making mistakes, you're having conversations, or you're practicing your speaking out loud, but you're never making mistakes, you're not going to actually get better. So you have to get comfortable with the messing up process. So speaking is one side, but getting comfortable with being confused, not understanding what the person says back to you, getting down on yourself and like apologizing for messing up. You need to get rid of that. So that's a big part of it. But when I say speaking, I'm also just talking about talking out loud, mimicking what you're hearing what if you're watching a telenovela, mimic that. Reading out loud. You're doing Duolingo, say the words out loud. You're doing Pimsleur, make sure to always speak out loud. Reading, try to read out loud as much as you can. And of course, having conversations, whether that is with me, if you're one of my one-on-one students, or if you're have a teacher on italki.com, or wherever it is, make sure that you're doing speaking as often as possible. And what I always say that if you're doing all of this, so you're motivated, right? You're doing your listening, you're doing your vocabulary building on a regular basis, you're adding new words and expressions, and you're speaking. If and when you lose track of this, you fall out of rhythm with whatever you're doing, you need to always come back to motivation. And you might have to do this many times throughout your Spanish learning journey. Come back to motivation and just check yourself, like, okay, why am I even doing this? Why am I motivated? Or maybe taking a trip to a Spanish-speaking country. That will reignite your motivation. Starting something with a romantic partner that speaks Spanish, that will kickstart your motivation. Watching a movie or a series, or finding a new artist that in Spanish music might actually kickstart your motivation. So always staying motivated is key to the fluency wheel. If you're watching the video on YouTube, you'll be able to see this. I should have mentioned this at the beginning. If you're just listening to the podcast, you'll kind of have to visualize it, but I highly recommend check out the YouTube video over at Spanish with Levi. Again, guys, this is all I have for today's episode. I want to keep it to the point. Don't want to blab on for too long, but I think that these kinds of episodes will be really, really beneficial to you. I'll try to keep them interesting and relevant. And I know most of us that listen to the podcast are probably in that high beginner to intermediate level and beyond. Not a lot of true beginners probably listen to the podcast here. But again, I'll try to keep it in that range, that high beginner to intermediate. And with our listening stuff, that obviously is going to be more intermediate to advanced. So stay tuned for future episodes, guys, of the podcast. I had to take a big break. It was quite the hiatus. I didn't mean for it to be that long, but yeah, there's a lot of things that I'll talk about in the future. We've been very busy, my wife and I. Rennie will still help me with some of the immersion podcasts in the future. And we're going to be moving out to Las Vegas, Nevada next month. I've been writing a book. So we've been busy. But anyways, I love doing this podcast. I'm going to get back at it, and make sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed, and follow me on all socials at Spanish with Levi. That's all we got for today. Nos vemos muy pronto. y hasta luego. Adiós.